first thing I want to get to, though, is a giant, massive sale. And we got to take you back just a couple weeks. I got GPA pulled up for a reason. We have a Mark Jewelers newsstand, which are, by the way, the same thing. It's actually a subcategory of newsstands. You want to get into that real quick and explain it? Give them a rundown.
Yeah, so you know, like you said, all Mark Jewelers are newsstands, but not all newsstands are Mark Jewelers. So the Mark Jewelers is an insert that was placed inside of a comics, and they were generally distributed onto army bases and other small test markets so that people who were looking to get rings for their girlfriends so that they could get married after the war or whatever service they were doing, they were able to order those rings through the comic books, and hence those became Mark Jewelers.
Upwards of 5% of the print run is suggested and predicted to have been created back in the day. Many of these were torn out and used. Even more of them were just read and tossed, and it's really difficult to find them, let alone high-grade copies. Now, let's take you back to 2020, okay? This is the start of the newsstand craze. You're going to know you have a newsstand over a direct market copy. How?
The barcode.
The barcode indicates that this wasn't sold in a traditional way, because at the time, LCSs and direct market was a thing. So you could either have a comic on order, have it show up, bag and board it, put it in your long box, boom, you got a 9.8, and it survived. Or you had a newsstand. You had to go to a shop. You had to go to a market. You had to go to
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven, indeed. And then that raw comic on the stand was then ideally bagged and boarded and preserved, but it lived a more dangerous life, which is why 9.8s of newsstands have skyrocketed. Back in 2020, first appearance of Gambit, X-Men 266 hit $2,000 for the first time in comic history, which was an outstanding jump for this collectible. I actually have a newsstand 9.8 that I purchased then after seeing that Mark Jeweler. Jeff's over here looking for it, but Ryan's holding it.
I grabbed it. Sorry, I should have told you.
And what do you think about this copy? It's pretty beautiful.
It is a newsstand, but I don't think it's a Mark Jewelers. You'd be able to tell from the top, correct?
Indeed.
I don't see it. I don't see anything.
Yeah, because they were it was a much thicker paper, like a cardboard type, and usually they came in a variety of colors, purple, black, you know, blue, whatever. So you should be able to see it from the top.
Does it say on the CDC label?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So $2,000 the market was set, and we haven't seen a Mark Jewelers sale for 3 years. This right here just tells you how scarce these are at that peak grade. Well, over the last 2 weeks, there's been a new sale clocked in April 2023 of $10,600, near $8,000 increase in 3 years, in a market that many would call down.
So wait, is that the same book that sold or a different 9.8? Are there multiple?
Good to check, yeah, if it's the same serial number.
I wonder if we can check that. I do not.
Different number.
They are different numbers.
So there's more than one.
There's more than one Mark Jeweler.
Interesting.
So how do you feel about this price hike? And what does that say about the collector's base and their preference on scarcity?
You know, for me, I've been in the industry a very, very long time, and I've owned, I don't know how many 266s and however many other books over and over and over. And after a certain amount of time, it's just another of the same. So to start dwindling it down to something more rare of still a really key book like the 266 and go into a newsstand and now knowing that you can get a Mark Jewelers, I think for that select group of people who've already had it before, it's something far more special. And it is a lot of money, so it's a hard number to digest, even for somebody like myself who, you know, kind of plays in that more oddity area. So, you know, but again, we know there's at least 2 copies, but there's so many other 9.8s that are not Mark Jewelers and even that are newsstands. So I'm not shocked by the number, but it is still a hard number to hear for many, I'm sure.
What do you think about that?
That definitely puts it out of people's reach. You know, like you said, that's over $8,000 more than the last time it sold. So if you think you could have maybe got it at $2K, probably not going to be able to swing 10,000 plus.
Well, I actually have CGC census pulled up right now. And keep in mind, Mark Jewelers make up, at the time of printing, upwards of 5% of the total print run, which means 9.8s are under 1%, far under. Well, the total 9.8 census count on CGC of 9.8 copies is 3,444.
Well, let me ask you this then. Would you rather have a 9.8 standard copy in a 10.0, or would you rather have a 9.8 Mark Jewelers?
That's a great question because according to the census, there are 0 10.0s in existence. However, there are 15 9.9s. So I'm going to kick this to the community. What do you think about Mark Jewelers versus a higher graded 9.9? Because you're getting awfully close to that like similar comparison in percentage. And I happen to have GPA on here, and we have the last 9.9 sale taking place back in 2015, where it sold for $3,228.
So it sounds like the market speaks, because if that's a 9.9 just regular copy for $3,000+ in 2013, I mean, maybe there wasn't 15 copies at the time. I mean, you just said a 9.8 Mark Jewelers only sold for $2K,
right?
Just a few years ago, but $10K now. So it's like, oh man, I don't know. If I had to decide, I think I would go with the 10.0 if the 10.0 was an option.
What about the 9.9 versus Mark? Because here's another factor
No,
I want to throw out there. You wouldn't do it. What would you do?
I feel like as a collector, I would rather have the 9.9 if I'm not going to flip it. I feel like a financial investment, the Mark Jeweler seems to make more sense, especially now.
Now I want to add an extra variable to this and kick it to the community. When you're talking about a 9.9, granted, grading is low-key subjective per grading company. Yes, that's on the table. We have to acknowledge that. But when you're talking about a 9.9 versus 9.8, I think it's even more so. You're buying it more for the label than the actual comic on the inside. Mark Jewelers literally is a different item. So when you apply that variable, I think I would go with the Mark J. I got to know what the community thinks in the comment section below.